impressed with a 500-foot home run?
Yeah.
Power Alley to Power Alley. We have you covered. Now, let's head out to the bump and join our Gators baseball radio broadcast battery. Here are Jeff and Steve.
Hey, how are you? Welcome once again to another edition of the On Deck Show. You see us, Steve and Jeff and Steve here. We'll be bringing you the radio call here. We hope, but Jeff, it wouldn't be the SEC tournament if we didn't have a bad weather forecast, right?
Yeah, that's why you always hope for the early games in Hoover, because once it gets into the afternoon or the evening, it's always a crapshoot as far as weather and different things going on. And of course, it looked like it was going to be fine. And then late last night, weather has really changed. A lot of the counties south of us here in Birmingham, Hoover, are under severe tornado and severe weather watches, thunderstorms, all that. So the hope is that it will stay south, but there is a big band supposed to maybe come through around 8 o'clock. So maybe the Gators can play quick and do some damage. Billy Barlow can actually throw some strikes today and get the Gators off to a good start. But yeah, it could be a messed up weather day, but that's exactly the way it is. And, as we know, each and every year you come to this thing, there's going to be a team probably playing at 2 o'clock in the morning. And luckily we're only the third game, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we've been there. We've been doing games at that time of the morning, no doubt. Jeff, you look at the matchup with South Carolina, and we were in Columbia when the Carolina was just overmatched. They did not play well at all here. And, a lot is on the line here. I mean, look, a lot of these teams are already in regionals, but now some of these teams, we talked about that big log jam in the middle where, you're maybe playing for being a regional host. So a lot of these games are going to be important.
Yeah, Alabama's certainly one of those right there on the edge. In Florida. And, I think when it's all said and done, that's the hope is if you can get one here, then that would certainly be enough to get you in. But I think, right now, Georgia Tech's right there on the bubble. So you kind of hope that they lose if you're a Gator fan. TCU's right there. Southern Miss, who got really hot all of a sudden, is kind of projected right there, maybe 14, 15, 16, where the Gators are. So there's got to be some negative rooting going on for all the Gator fans, certainly. And if Florida can take care of business this first game, you beat South Carolina, then you're into kind of the rest of the 8, and then if you beat Ole Miss, I think that would put you a lock for sure. But I think there's a lot of people, even in some of this conversation, saying if the Gators can beat South Carolina and do it pretty handily, then you should have done well enough resume wise to put you in. Because to me, your resume is better than Bama. You just took 2 out of 3 from them, so I think that's one of those teams that are right there on the edge as well.
All right, let's do our questions of the week, brought to you by Meldon Law. Meldon Law with 50 years of experience, the only injury law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Meldon Law won't back down. Send your questions to questions@gatorshows.com, as we always do. We'll do some in the first half, some in the second half. Mike in Gainesville, 15-15 conference record, not something we should celebrate, but considering the ugly 1-11 start, that has to be commendable. Question. Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, nobody wants to get off. It's the worst start in school history in Southeastern Conference play. So you have to look at it from that standpoint and just look at the job that they did and how many injuries they had to go through, the shuffling around of lineups and what you had to then figure out as a staff and players and everybody else. And I think you got to commend everybody for making that happen, because I'm not sure that anybody would have been sitting here and even having Florida even close to a conversation about hosting a regional. Now, it might have been, okay, Florida can sneak into a regional as a 3 seed somewhere, similar to what we saw last year. But the injuries really put Florida behind the 8 ball. And commend is a great word, because I think you commend a lot of people for turning this thing around, even us broadcasters.
That's right. Show in Gainesville. Gators finished regular season 37-19, number 12 RPI, number 3 strength of schedule. Wouldn't these numbers almost guarantee hosting a regional? I wouldn't use the word guarantee, but
yeah, probably not guarantee. But remember, Florida only had 36 wins all of last year, and that's counting regional, super regional, Omaha, and all that. So you've already passed that win number. And listen, the 40 win mark was always kind of the standard, and you've got a chance to even do that this week if Florida can get hot and play well. But Yeah, it's the way baseball works. Not everybody's going to be healthy all the time. I mean, look at Tennessee, look at Texas A&M, all these teams that were considered to be the best in the country. I mean, Florida only finished one loss behind Tennessee. I mean, that's how special that was. And we even talked about it to wrap up the broadcast there against Alabama. Tennessee only won 4 conference series all year, and the Gators won 6. So I
Yeah.
mean, think about it from that standpoint. Then you look at it, then Florida was better than Tennessee. So I mean, you can't sit there and be mad about a 15-15 record in the SEC.
Greg in Gainesville with a strong finish to the regular season, 17 in the last 22, including 14 of 18 in SEC play, much improved pitching. Can the Gators repeat their success in Hoover? Sure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you got a favorable matchup here against South Carolina. Their season's on the line, though. That's the thing for them. If they don't win the conference tournament, their season's over. So
Yep.
I think they're going to do everything possible to try to win each and every game that they can. And they did just beat LSU the other day, and LSU might be one of the best teams in the entire country. So you don't think that Florida's just going to stroll in here and beat South Carolina tonight. But yeah, you try to stay hot, you try to continue to play well. But Steve, I think that this type of tournament, so to speak, and even a regional tournament, not necessarily what Florida is favorable at. What they are good at, and what we've seen the last 6 weeks, are winning an actual series. So that would be super regional play, because then you get to have things set up with Peterson, McNeely, Clemente, and then you probably use Capola and a few other guys there in that middle game, and then you can always go back to Aiden King, and then let's see, you probably go back to McNeely and Clemente again. That's kind of been the recipe. So if Florida can get through a regional, which obviously we'll talk about when that happens in a week or so, but more favorable for a super regional if the Gators can get that far.
I was thinking about this on the long drive here. If you're a team, Jeff, like South Carolina, I wonder if you would do this. I don't think they did, but this is what I was thinking. You just said it. Their season's on the line. So to me, if LSU beat them by 50 runs in the series, I'm putting all my eggs in this basket. I would get my pitching aligned. I'd get everything aligned for this tournament, because that last weekend of the regular season means nothing. I didn't see what they did, but I'm anxious to see who they pitch here, given that.
Yeah, I mean that's the way it is. When you're desperate, you're obviously pulling out all the stops, and I think that's where it might be a game where hopefully Florida can do something early and kind of put it out of hand, because if not, you're probably going to see a bunch of matchups and pitching changes and different things where it's going to be a long baseball game because of that, because of what you have to do to manage to try to win when your season's on the line.
All right, let's do Jillian in Gainesville. With only a few starters participating in senior day, speculation arises that next year's team might be exceptionally strong. Do you agree?
Well, they're going to hit the portal, and it just depends what happens. But you assume that Kyle Jones is coming back. We still don't know about Curlin. He's draft eligible. He could leave. Heyman, now is it considered that he might come back because of the injury here at the end of the season? And does that affect his draft stock or all that kind of stuff? So, yeah, if you get those guys back, that's certainly pretty incredible. And then you're going to go out into the portal and get a few guys, certainly some arms. But yeah, I mean, think about it. Peterson would come back. King would come back. You're looking for a third starter, but that's easily probably found in the portal if Sully can get some money and be able to find some guys. So yeah, next year I think is certainly looking pretty darn good. But we thought that about this year's team, how
Right.
good it was, and people got hurt, and you just never know.
John and Hawthorne, will Sully qualify for any coaching awards?
Yeah, I mean, he could be the coach of the year, and I would probably say that Texas was assumed to be really good. Arkansas assumed. Corbin at Vandy probably assumed. Georgia could maybe get it. And what he's done over there with Wes Johnson. So, but I think if you look at the turnaround, I mean, there's been a lot of years where Sully's been the best team and he doesn't win that award because they normally don't give it to the best. They normally give it to a guy that really coached his rear end off. And certainly we saw that from Kevin O'Sullivan and the rest of that staff this year.
I'm with you. I would think Wes Johnson, but if you gave it to Sully, I don't think anybody could really quibble with that because of the job he did. Jake in Gainesville, Gators softballs 8-0 regional sweep against Mercer. has positioned them to potentially host Georgia, where they're going to. Their lack of regular season competition against them creates uncertainty about the matchup. But there won't be any uncertainty, Jake, because Tim Walton and his staff do the same thing that Gator Baseball and its staff does. They do research, they look at tape, they crunch the numbers. They'll be prepared to play Georgia.
Yeah, 100%. It's a chance to go to the World Series on the line. You get it at home. You can't ask for anything better than that. And what a great rivalry! I know the fan base will show up. It'll be awesome there at the ballpark. So looking to be a lot of fun, and hopefully we're at home because it'd be nice to get over there and watch a few of those.
Yeah, sure would. Tom and Alachua, which players on the team are projected to be drafted in the draft?
Well, Shelton will get drafted. To be determined on Coppola, whether or not his career is just going to continue or what's going to happen with him if he wants to just shut it down with all the injuries. Certainly Bobby Bozer has that opportunity. Ty Evans could get drafted. I'm not sure though with the year and the lack of defensive stuff. He could be just a free agent somewhere. Maybe in that same mold as Shellnut or something like that. And those guys are playing, into independent ball, trying to find a affiliate. So we'll see. But yeah, it hasn't been this outstanding, just year of prospects and dominance, certainly like what we saw with Cags last year, who for Gator fans that didn't see, got called up to AAA yesterday. So congrats to him. So he's already in Omaha because that's where the AAA team is. So that'd be kind of cool if Gators can get back there and maybe they'd be at home. You could go see them. But there's just certainly in years past, you've always had that first rounder, second rounder that you're looking forward to. That's not the case this year with the team.
And Curlin and Heyman could go too, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, so, both draft eligible.
But injuries could, like Jeff said, determine something different. John in Gainesville, Aiden King picked up his 6th win in the standout rookie campaign. Is he now our 3rd pitcher in the rotation? Oh, you bet he is. Yes.
Yeah, 100%. And it's nice to have him in that actual spot too, because of the injuries and Coppola. Like imagine if the Gators had Coppola all year long and a healthy Coppola, then King would have been able to be the Sunday guy. And I'd take my chances with Coppola or with King on Sunday over really anybody that we saw in the 30-game SEC stretch. So it's nice to have him in that spot. You feel pretty confident the Gators can win one of the first 2 in a series, that he's going to go out and give you a really good opportunity and probably go now 6 or 7. So that really then limits what you have to bring out of the bullpen, and you can just bring those guys in to get a couple of outs at the end and be successful.
Yeah, a lot of poise for a young pitcher. Speaking of Cags, Jeff, Ben in Gainesville, promoted to AAA. After in AA, he 3rd in the Texas League in homers and led that league in RBI. Was Kansas City patient enough?
Yeah, I think so. Especially when you look at their big league club, they're really struggling. And if they needed a first baseman, I think he would have probably been brought up already. But they already have one, so they had to make that decision. Hey, let's put this guy in the outfield. And then you just don't want to throw him right into the majors in a new position that he hasn't really done much with. So I think they're doing their due diligence, doing a nice job. And I think going in, you always probably thought that the middle of the summer, somewhere during those dog days, he would get brought up and he would make an impact on that team. And I think they're right on track to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think the timing of that is just what you say, and it's a two-edged sword. If you're Kansas City and you get back, they were a playoff team last year. So if you get to where you're going to maybe be a playoff factor, he could help you in the stretch run. And then if you're not for some reason, well, then you bring him up with nothing to lose because you just see what he can do at the big league level. Finally, Luke in Gainesville. Heyman's injury last week, sad, unexpected. Do we know if he can make it back for an Omaha run?
Yeah, no chance. Broken forearm, so he had surgery, had some plates put in there. So it's I don't think that's even in consideration. And it just it really hurts because if you look at this run, the last 18 games that the Gators had, he led the team in homers, he led the team in ribbies. He was such a big part of what that offense was able to do. And we don't even count that Ole Miss weekend where he tore it up there in Oxford. So that kind of got it started. So if you factor that in there and you go 21 games out, then he would just be blowing everybody else away. So it's a big loss. And I think defensively too, he was so good back there at the time that he was taken out of the lineup. He had thrown out more runners than anybody else in the SEC, and he got rewarded. He's the first team All SEC catcher, which is awesome. That shows you the impact that he made right there.
And Jeff, I'm glad you made that point, because early in Heyman's career, he was not the defensive catcher he is now.
Sure.
We all know what he's done as a hitter, but he's really worked on his defense. He's really worked on handling pitchers, doing the little things that catchers do, and that's really shown up.
Yeah, 100%. It's a big loss. I mean, certainly all the injuries hurt, and Curlin. I think I expected him before the year. I mean, to me, I considered him to probably have the best year, and then he goes out. He had a 7-game hitting streak when he went out, but for everything that Heyman does for that ball club, and it's not a knock on Donay. He's just not as good defensively as Heyman is. I mean, that's why Heyman would catch and Donay would not catch. So you lose a lot back there. And, hopefully Brody can just step up enough, and he's got a great arm. He's just got to figure out, how to throw some guys out and, be a little bit better back there defensively, and we'll see what happens.
All right. Again, those are our questions of the week, brought to you by Meldon Law. Part 2 of this will come later in the show. We'll take a break now, come back, much more to come here on the On Deck Show. Stay with us.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, 2 things haven't: our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured,
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
and our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
Is your bank dropping the ball, not playing with heart or skill? Then you need to check out the scouting report on Campus USA Credit Union. That's a 5-star recruit if I've ever seen one. Campus has it all, like great rates and products, friendly service, and smart game plans for you and your money. So why not put some star power in your financial life? Visit campuscu.com or any campus service center today.
Honey, can I recruit you to take the garbage out?
For over 2 decades, Miapa has been a staple in Alachua County. Start your day right at Miapa, where fast and affordable authentic cuisine awaits.
We're known for serving the best Cuban coffee.
Our secret is in every sip and every bite, bringing the flavor of our culture straight to your palate. Everyone is welcome at Miapa Latin Cafe. Visit us at one of our locations and let us take you on a journey full of flavor. Miapa Latin Cafe, where every bite is a taste of tradition.
At Comfort Temp Heating and Air, we're proud to celebrate 40 years as your #1 local HVAC company. We offer energy-efficient solutions featuring quality products from Lennox. Whether it's new installation, system repairs, or routine maintenance, we promise to never sell you anything you don't need. Our professional and experienced technicians provide reliable service you can trust and will keep you informed throughout the entire process. At Comfort Temp, comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise.
The State Farm Personal Price Plan helps you create an affordable price just for you.
Contact local agent Roos Ogra for your personal price plan today.
Coach, it always impressed me how you beat Florida State to win the 1996 National Championship.
And I was really impressed with your 06, 08, and 09 Gator teams.
And the way you coached Danny to the Heisman Trophy.
A lot like what you did with Tim Tebow.
You won more SEC championships than you lost home games at the Swamp.
And you had plenty of super games in front of our Gator Nation.
Yeah, there really is something special about the Swamp.
I guess that's why we say about the Swamp, only the Gators get out alive.
To the Swamp and the Gators, with the best beverage served at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, 100% agave, Los Landeros tequila, aged in bourbon barrels for a smoother taste.
I think you mean Head Beer Coach 1966 lager, a crisp, light, bodied lager for easy drinking.
Nope. Los Landeros tequila, smooth enough to drink neat, bold enough to elevate a cocktail.
1966 lager, enjoyed on game days in the fall or whenever you need a winning cold brew.
Los Landeros tequila.
1966 lager.
Los Landeros.
1966 lager.
Y'all stop bickering.
Okay, you're both wrong anyway. The best thing Spurrier's Gridiron Grill offers are Jerry's famous chocolate chip cookies.
Silverback Concrete is a family-led team of heavy concrete specialists that builds commercial structures for contractors who expect unrivaled quality, including the head ball coach's restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. You only have one chance to make a building that holds up to the highest standards through all kinds of weather. Visit silverbackconcrete.co to see why they're the #1 choice in the Southeast. You stand on it, we stand by it. Silverback Concrete's got your back.
Don't settle for a knockoff diamond when you can get the best diamonds at the best price. International Diamond Center, located in Celebration Point for quality selection and value. International Diamond Center, the official jeweler of the Florida Gators. All right, we are back with our On Deck show as we come to you from Hoover/Birmingham, the site of the SEC baseball tournament. Best and worst of the week, brought to you by Ruse Ogra State Farm Insurance. State Farm agent Ruse Ogra is your go-to agent in Gainesville and North Central Florida for the service you deserve at the price you want. What do you got, Jeff?
Well, I think the best for me was just the Gators finishing it off. You know, it was a really emotional Saturday, and you try to win that sixth series in a row, and it was so important to everything. And you know, I think even the way that series started on Thursday night with Heyman going down and the Gators were down 5-0. You know, I think a lot of people are probably thinking that, gosh, man, now Florida's done. There's no chance they're going to be on the road for a regional. No way they can do this without Heyman. But you have to commend all these guys for being able to step up. And Stripling then forced into action. He hasn't played a bunch over the last month and a half. And then, of course, Blake Brookins comes in. And he had a hit in all 3 games for a guy that never had a hit in 2 years in a Gator uniform. So that was really cool to see everybody come together and really do some damage. So that was a lot of fun. And, you know, as the Gators are putting themselves in position, you know, we, you know, as you're driving up here, you pass Montgomery, if you go that way, and that's where Troy is. And for me, that's the worst for them. They got swept at home by Southern Miss this weekend. So it was good for Southern Miss. They now sneak into maybe a potential regional host, but you know, Troy was a team that was really like on the border. Their RPI has dropped a lot now, and for some of those mid-major teams, and you got to win your conference tournament. And you know, I think they expected to maybe even get an at-large bid, but I'm not sure that's going to be the case now. But you know, that's the case with a lot of different teams, and we can sit there and talk about West Virginia and Arizona State and Yale, UC Irvine, all these teams that were right there that needed to make a statement the last weekend, and they all stunk. Where the Gators did make a statement to really do some damage. So it's a fun time of year.
Because we're in Hoover, I'm going to leave mine to the SEC just because it's the SEC tournament. Congratulations to Texas, you know, for winning the league in its first year here, although Florida took care of business. And, you know, the worst is obviously Missouri. And I just, you know, really feel sorry for them in terms of trying to compete in our league. I mean, they get to come to the tournament because now every team is here, but man, outside of one series, they didn't beat anybody in the league. That's pretty tough. Coach of the Week brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union, putting some star power to work in your financial life for 90 years. Campus USA Credit Union. Coach of the Week.
Yeah, for me, it's Dan Fitzgerald of Kansas. This is a guy that's been there 3 years now. He came from Dallas Baptist, where he was good for about a decade. And, you know, Kansas is miserable. The only thing good comes out of Kansas is the Wizard of Oz, right? And Dorothy. Although basketball is pretty decent at times, but it's like it's not a baseball powerhouse. And why would you go there? But he has made it a powerhouse. He's done a really good job with recruiting and developing guys. And all of a sudden, Kansas is in a baseball conversation where that's never the case. So it's been fun to see a program like that do something. And who knows? I mean, they could certainly make a run. And you know, they've got a skipper in Dan Fitzgerald that's got a lot of accolades. He knows what the heck he's doing. So I wouldn't want to see them in my regional if I'm going to get them.
Because I'm going to keep it in the SEC. I mentioned this to you in the booth, Jeff. Tim Corbin is my coach. Vanderbilt was better than I thought they were going to be because they hit better. You know, they've always pitched it, but in the last 2-3 years, you know, Vandy's just been a so hitting team, and they were much better at that this year, more power. So I think he did a nice job. So Tim Corbin's going to be my coach of the year. And Team of the Week brought to you by Comfort Temp Heating and Air, your #1 local HVAC company. Comfort Temp Heating and Air, comfort our business, peace of mind, our promise. What do you got?
Yeah, it's another one of those teams where if you would have gone the other way to Hoover, you would have gone through Atlanta, and that's where Georgia Tech is, and they had to go to Duke and they took 2 out of 3 on the road to win the ACC outright. So that means they finished ahead of Florida State and Miami, which is always a good thing. I mean, that could be a destination for Florida if, something doesn't go well and Florida doesn't get a regional host. But I think you're looking at a lot of those teams right now. So give Georgia Tech a lot of credit. Back in the day, they were, a powerhouse with Teixeira and Jay Payton and all those types of guys, but they haven't really been relevant in baseball for a decent amount of time. So it's good to see them back in it. And now you just, you wait and see as, Southern missed a spot that the Gators could go. I mean, luckily there's Ole Miss out there and different things where they could send them, but Tallahassee, North Carolina, NC State, teams like that, it's going to be interesting to see what happens if the Gators don't get a regional host.
I think a lot of Gator fans in the Atlanta area would certainly be happy if the Gators didn't host and they went to Georgia Tech, because I think it'd be a pretty good contingent of Gator fans there, given the fan base that's around there. My team of the week, Jeff, I'm going to change a bit to school of the week. Look what's happened to Texas A&M. I thought about this. I can't think historically where the number one preseason team in baseball is fighting to make a regional and has to really do damage here to make it. And then the softball team, the overall number one national seed, gets beaten at home by Liberty. I don't ever remember a school whose teams started out that way and ended up this way. What just a tough scenario there for them.
Yeah, and I mean, we know what happened in baseball with Jimbo, or football with Jimbo, and having to get out of that contract and pay $70-80 million, whatever it was. It's strange. Certainly they have a lot of pride for that place out there, and I think the expectation was to always get it. But I mean, just look at what happened with baseball and Schlossnagle. He left there to go to Texas, the enemy, and I think that shows you right there just what he thinks of where the programs are and the differences and how they run stuff and how they go about it. So, I memean, to me, that's the telltale sign of there's something that's just not right from maybe it's an athletic director standpoint or just the way that they're doing things. It's not necessarily the best.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. Second half of the On Deck Show today, live in Hoover/Birmingham. As we continue with our show, stay with us.
The most important thing I learned from my father was work ethic and integrity. Never veer away from integrity, even if it costs you money.
International Diamond Center owner Keith LeClaire.
The core value for IDC is to protect the customer.
That means offering the largest selection, uncompromising quality, the strongest warranties, and honest guidance from experts who are not paid on commission. International Diamond Center at Celebration Point. Online, shopidc.com.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
I'm tired of you living in pain, and I want you to get real lasting relief from chronic pain in your knees, back, shoulders, and hips. QC Kinetics can get you moving again with cutting-edge regenerative treatments with no drugs, no downtime, and no surgery. Stop putting it off. Call now and schedule your free consultation. Call QC Kinetics now in Gainesville, Ocala, and the Villages. 352-400-4550. 352-400-4550.
Florida Victorious is a powerful chapter in UF's NIL story.
We are
Florida Victorious.
Gator fans. Let's get on board now, okay?
Florida Victorious, proud NIL partner of the Florida Gators.
Well, fans, don't settle for a knockoff diamond when you can get the best diamonds at the best price. It's International Diamond Center, located in Celebration Point. For quality, selection, and value. International Diamond Center. It's the official jeweler of the Florida Gators.
All right, we welcome you back to the On Deck Show today, live in Hoover, as we get set to bring you Gator baseball, hopefully, weather permitting, against South Carolina. First game of the SEC tournament for both teams. Relief Pitcher of the Week brought to you by QC Kinetics. If you have joint pain that won't go away, check out QC Kinetics for long-lasting relief. What do you got, Jeff?
And to me, it's Luke McNeely. I think he's such a big factor of what this team is, and it sounds like you agree. It's just
I do.
When he's on, he's lights out, and he can be that gap from whatever the starter is to getting some really important outs, whether it's 3 or 6, and then getting the ball to Clemente. So it's almost like he's the most important pitcher, because if he does well, then that means you just assume that Clemente is going to do well on the back end. So really, a lot of these games are depending on what Luke McNeely is doing. And I think he's starting to grow up and figure it out. I think he's pitching more with a purpose. I mean, I think he's more, kind of pissed off when he's out on the mound, which is good. You got to compete. And he's starting to show that and figuring out what it takes to be successful.
I that was going to be mine, so I'm right with you. And I agree with the being, having a little chip on your shoulder. But I think sometimes that chip went against him, that he got too hyped up, too emotional. I think now he's channeled that, he's harnessed that. He still has that chip, but to your point, he's harnessed it, and his pitching has been a lot better of late. And he is important, because a lot of times now starters go only 5 or 6, and you're not going to ask your closer to go 3 or 4. So you need that bridge guy, and he's been really good. Game of the Week brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Quality Plumbers, Gainesville's trusted for over 30 years. Quality Plumbing, their name says it all.
Well, to me, it's a game here at the SEC tournament, if it happens, is probably the most important out of all of them, and that is the 8-9 matchup. Tennessee's sitting there with the bye tomorrow, but if Alabama beats Missouri this morning, then it's Tennessee versus Alabama, and that could be one of those where that's one of the last hosts when it's all said and done. So that'll be the early game tomorrow. Obviously, if Missouri wins, then that's a moot point. But you would think that Alabama, with all the crowd and only being like 30 minutes from here, they've got a good crowd over there right now. That to me, that's going to be the game. Really, really important for both of those teams, because I think just like Florida, we're sitting there tinkering on whether or not to host or not. So I think whoever wins that one probably solidifies themselves. And then if especially if it's Tennessee, if they go and then beat Texas the next day, then I think you would have to say that Tennessee then deserves a host. But right now, to me, I don't think Tennessee does. So this SEC tournament is really important for them.
I'm going to just go with our game here, Jeff, and because again of the importance for Florida, right? You win this, maybe get another win or two, you get to host a regional, but I want to look at what South Carolina is going to do here, and you made the point. I looked over the weekend to see, what they did against LSU, and they did beat LSU one time. So that tells me they didn't pack it in. That tells me that they still have some fight left. And I'm just anxious to see if Florida can jump on them early, 4 or 5. What does Carolina have left in the tank? So I think it's really important for Florida to get up to a good start here, maybe bury them early, and then we can, move on from there. We'll see. Player of the Week brought to you by Florida Victorious. Game-changing plays, life-changing impact. Florida Victorious, proud partner of the Florida Gators on and off the field.
Well, the SEC awards came out this week, and there were several Gators, which is awesome. But I think the one that maybe a lot of people don't know about that we saw in Starkville was Ace Reese. He was the SEC newcomer of the year, and in SEC play, he led all SEC players, hit over 400, had 15 bombs, he had 49 hits, and he was just really, really good. And it's the award now. It's weird because you're giving another award to somebody who's transferring into the conference. So it's now the second year that they've done this awards. It shows you where college baseball has become and what it's turned into. And now all of a sudden you're talking about a newcomer, and it's no longer just the most valuable player, the best player, or the freshman of the year. You've got to now involve all these transfers, which is kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, and speaking of Mississippi State, I think Florida and Mississippi State just come to mind as the two teams that looked to be buried and all of a sudden have turned their season around. Since that coaching change at Mississippi State, they're playing good baseball.
Yeah, they only lost once, so 10-1 since the coaching change. That's pretty darn good.
Yeah, it is. We'll take a break. We'll come back. Much more to come on the On Deck Show. Stay with us.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, two things haven't: our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured,
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
and our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
At Comfort Temp Heating and Air, we're proud to celebrate 40 years as your #1 local HVAC company. We offer energy-efficient solutions featuring quality products from Lennox. Whether it's new installation, system repairs, or routine maintenance, we promise to never sell you anything you don't need. Our professional and experienced technicians provide reliable service you can trust and will keep you informed throughout the entire process. At Comfort Temp, comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise.
Over 2 decades, Miapa has been a staple in Alachua County. Start your day right at Miapa, where fast and affordable authentic cuisine awaits.
We're known for serving the best Cuban coffee.
Our secret is in every sip and every bite, bringing the flavor of our culture straight to your palate. Everyone is welcome at Miapa Latin Cafe. Visit us at one of our locations and let us take you on a journey full of flavor. Miapa Latin Cafe, where every bite is a taste of tradition.
The most important thing I learned from my father was work ethic and integrity. Never veer away from integrity, even if it costs you money.
International Diamond Center owner Keith LeClaire.
The core value for IDC is to protect the customer.
That means offering the largest selection, uncompromising quality, the strongest warranties, and honest guidance from experts who are not paid on commission. International Diamond Center at Celebration Point. Online, shopidc.com.
Silverback Concrete is a family-led team of heavy concrete specialists that builds commercial structures for contractors who expect unrivaled quality, including the head ball coach's restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. You only have one chance to make a building that holds up to the highest standards through all kinds of weather. Visit silverbackconcrete.co to see why they're the #1 choice in the Southeast. You stand on it, we stand by it. Silverback Concrete's got your back.
State to win the 1996 national championship.
And I was really impressed with your 06, 08, and 09 Gator teams.
And the way you coached Danny to the Heisman Trophy.
A lot like what you did with Tim Tebow.
You know, you won more SEC championships than you lost home games at the Swamp.
And you had plenty of super games in front of our Gator Nation.
Yeah, there really is something special about the Swamp.
I guess that's why we say about the Swamp, only the Gators get out alive.
To the Swamp and the Gators, with the best beverage served at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. 100% agave, Los Landeros tequila. Aged in bourbon barrels for a smoother taste.
I think you mean head beer coach, 1966 lager.
Oh, Zach, do we have any
light-bodied
Facebook or
lager
YouTube
for
comments?
easy drinking.
Nope. Los Landeros tequila. Smooth enough to drink neat, bold enough to elevate a cocktail.
1966 lager, enjoyed on game days in the fall or whenever you need a winning cold brew.
Los Landeros tequila.
I'll just read the sponsorship.
1966 lager.
Los Landeros.
1966 lager.
Y'all stop bickering.
Okay, you're both wrong anyway. The best thing Spurrier's Gridiron Grill offers are Jerry's famous chocolate chip cookies.
All right, it is time for the 7th inning stretch, courtesy of Miapa Latin Cafe. Discover 11 delicious Cuban sandwiches at Miapa. With 5 locations in Gainesville and Alachua, you are never far from the best Cuban food north of Miami.
That is for sure. Welcome back to our On Deck Show. Time for our softball review, Jeff, brought to you by Silverback Concrete. Silverback Concrete builds firm foundations for generations. You stand on it. We stand by it. An absolutely dominant performance in the regionals, although Florida Atlantic hit the ball very well, but didn't pitch it very well. And the Gators, I think Tim Walton is now 53-9 in his career in regionals. That's just crazy. And here they are again, a familiar position, hosting a super regional.
Yeah, it's pretty special. And after that tough game against FAU, where it was close for 5 innings, and then obviously
Yeah.
Florida exploded offensively, the walk-off grand slam. But give credit to Mercer too, because then they had to beat FAU, who everybody thought FAU was going to be the sure-in opponent of the Gators again. But that's the Lindsay Norfleet, Lindsay Fico now, who's brought her team in there and got to play her former team a couple of times. Although the Gators shut them out twice and run rolled them in both games. But yeah, they're playing well. It's just you got to get through that kind of stuff. And we saw LSU lose. And obviously you mentioned A&M earlier, the number one overall seed that goes down. So, but there was still 9 SEC teams that made super regionals, which is nuts. So that ties the most ever by any conference. So there'll be a lot of SEC softball teams in Oklahoma City, and hopefully the Gators are one of them, although they're going against an SEC team. So obviously we know one's going to make it from at least there.
Yeah, I think Alabama has Oklahoma too.
Yeah.
So another SEC team will certainly be able to make it there. All right. I don't know if it matters now, but top 4 teams brought to you by Coke Zero. The new and improved recipe tastes like real Coca-Cola with 0 sugar and 0 calories.
Yeah, I think still Texas, you got to put them at number 1. They won the SEC. And we mentioned this on the air, but for those that weren't listening, I love the quote from Jim Schlossnagle, who was named the SEC Coach of the Year, by the way. He said it's harder to win a regular season SEC title than it is to win a College World Series. And it's crazy to think that, but yeah, there's some teams that, certainly get through regionals and super regionals that may not deserve to get there. They just got hot at the right time, but they're not as good as an SEC team. So when you have that 30-game grind of 10 weeks in a row of having to battle it out, and I know Missouri and South Carolina weren't the best this year, and fortunately the Gators got to play both of them. But I mean, you look at everybody else, it's a fight. I mean, Kentucky's given Vandy struggles, all that kind of stuff. So Texas still for sure to me is the team that got through the gauntlet and made it through. Arkansas, I still love. I expect them to be in Omaha. I think they're a really good team. I think Vandy, you mentioned Tim Corbin as your coach of the week. For those guys to come back like they did, they're starting to hit the baseball. Kentucky was desperate, had leads in just about every one of those games, and Vandy was able to come back. So I've got Vandy as probably my 3rd best team in the country behind those 2. And then a non-SEC team, probably North Carolina. They're playing really, really well. And that could be, again, a team where Florida gets forced to go up and be a 2 seed in Chapel Hill. And that could be very, very interesting if that's the case.
Yeah, another ACC team that Florida would have to deal with. By the way, if you have Facebook or YouTube comments, they're brought to you by Titan MRI. No insurance is no problem, and Titan MRI has same-day scheduling available. Call them up and start feeling better today. TitanMRI.com. All right, Jeff, let's finish up our questions of the week, brought to you by Meldon Law. They won't back down. Helen in Gainesville. Great comeback Thursday against Bama, down 5-0, finding a way to win. Showed our team's resiliency and winning attitude. Has this team proved its resiliency? I would say so, sure.
Best win of the year, in my opinion, on Thursday night. For everything that happened, what was on the line, the importance of it, all that kind of stuff. Heyman going down, looking lifeless. We mentioned on the broadcast that there was no energy, not even in the dugout, not even in the stands. I think people were just like shocked that, oh my gosh, Heyman's gone. And then for the team to do that, it took one little measly error, which was somewhat crazy. I mean, the ball that should have been the 3rd out of the inning, and Alabama makes that play, they probably win. The starter stays in the game. Instead, he has to come out, and the Gators string together like 5 or 6 straight base runners to score 3 runs, get back in it, and Donay hits the homer to win it. So that game Thursday night was a lot of fun.
Tony in Gainesville, McNeely and Clemente. Keita was winning Thursday. Pitching's really brought us back from the dead. How do you compare our pitching now to back in February?
Yeah, old guys that have started to grow up, and some of these freshmen that couldn't throw strikes and didn't know what they were doing have now started to figure it out. And you're even finding pieces. What Blaine Rowland's done the last couple of weeks has been really important. Even though it hasn't really been high leverage situations, he's gone out there and proven that, hey, he might be a guy that you got to bring in a big spot, because I'm not sure how much you can trust Philpott anymore. He hasn't really been able to do that. So as some guys go down, other guys step up. Christian Rodriguez, I think, has been a nice surprise too, starting to figure it out. What he's been able to do. Even Caden McDonald, other than the last outing the other day, he was really, really good his last 5 or 6 times out. So I think the difference is some of those younger freshmen figuring it out for a change.
It's funny, Jeff. We see this every year, and we've been spoiled in the past by, guys Faedo and people like that who, go out on a Friday night and stuff it down somebody's shirt. But last couple of years, they've really had to piece together the pitching because of injuries. You mentioned Coppola and other things. And I mean, I'm just using him as an example. Think at the beginning of the year, Alex Philpott was going to be the closer, and it just didn't work out. And sometimes it doesn't work out when you plan it, and then somebody gets hurt, and now all of a sudden you're shuffling your entire pitching staff. And anybody think Aiden King would be where he is, here in the month of May? So it's a journey, man. I don't care what team you are. Rarely do you see, the guys we thought Friday, Saturday, Sunday just pan out. Your bullpen, it doesn't work that way. And Florida's done a really good job of putting these pieces together. Raphael in Gainesville, A&M's facing a tough situation. Entering the baseball season, the top pick to win the championship. They hold the unfortunate distinction of being the first number 1 national seed to be knocked out in the softball regionals since seeding started in 2005. How disappointing would you say this season's been? Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, you mentioned that. And even if they don't make a regional, they'll be the first number 1 preseason team to not make a regional in 35 years. So imagine that. So if softball and baseball both do what they did, that's a lot of disappointment there in College Station.
Morgan in High Springs, the Gators have a freshman, broke the record for homers with 20, one shy of the school record of 22. Is she the best softball freshman we've ever had?
There's been a lot of really good ones that have started and played right away, but the numbers don't lie. For her to put up more home runs as a freshman than anybody's ever done in this great program that Tim Walton has continued, I would probably say, and if she can live up to it and keep doing this each and every year, she's got a chance to be one of the best. We're seeing Lauren Hager's getting to the UF Hall of Fame this year. She was obviously really good, but she did it from a pitching standpoint too. She was the softball Babe Ruth, as they called her. But Shoemaker's been awesome, and it's been a lot of fun to see.
Tim Walton is so good, like Sully is, at finding talent. And then I think Tim is unique. I just love the way he coaches, because his teams can beat you in different ways. They can beat you 2-1 or 1-0. They can also beat you 12-11 if they have to. And his teams have grit. He finds ways to just push the right button with these kids. And look, this. There's kids in this team who, with other schools, may be playing a lot more than they are. That's at least never an issue. They always have great attitudes. They help each other out. That's a credit to what Tim Walton has done and what his coaching staff has done year in and year out. They know talent, and they make that talent play.
Yeah, and it's a great point. I remember having a conversation with Tim after they won a couple of national championships, and I said, you're winning, you probably don't need to do anything different, right? And he goes, no, every year we have to adapt and change. It's a different team and obviously different players. And that's where he is so good. It's like, okay, we didn't steal bases this year, so now we're going to do this next year. We're going to bring in X player to be able to do that. Or, we struggled against, lefties that do this. So you bring in somebody that's able to now counter that. So you're always adapting, changing, even if you are one of the best to ever do it. That's what you have to do to stay relevant.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back, and then we'll have our final segment here of our On Deck show today as we come to you from Hoover, the side of the SEC baseball tournament. Stay with us.
The State Farm Personal Price Plan helps you create an affordable price just for you.
Contact local agent Roos Ogra for your personal price plan today.
I'm tired of you living in pain, and I want you to get real lasting relief from chronic pain in your knees, back, shoulders, and hips. QC Kinetics can get you moving again with cutting-edge regenerative treatments with no drugs, no downtime, and no surgery. Stop putting it off. Call now and schedule your free consultation. Call QC Kinetics now in Gainesville, Ocala, and the Villages. 352-400-4550. 352-400-4550.
Success doesn't happen by chance. It takes skill, dedication, and a winning team behind you. For over 40 years, Quality Plumbing has been the trusted name across North Central Florida, delivering reliable service, expert craftsmanship, and results you can count on. From the locker room to the living room, the track to your tap, commitment to quality is how success is achieved. Teamwork, experience, community, that's the winning formula. Quality Plumbing. Our name says it all.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Florida Victorious is a powerful chapter in UF's NIL story.
We are
Florida Victorious.
Gator fans, let's get on board now, okay?
Florida Victorious, proud NIL partner of the Florida Gators.
International Diamond Center, the official jeweler of the Florida Gators. Visit us online at shopidc.com to see our selection of premier diamonds you can't get anywhere else. International Diamond Center, your family-owned diamond connection located in Celebration Point. Well, partner, we're ready for Gator baseball, the SEC tournament here. Let's assume the weather holds. Your thoughts on this matchup with Carolina?
Yeah, I just, hopefully it goes the same way it did in Columbia. I think we went up there not expecting to sweep by any means. It was always a tough place to play, and the Gators just absolutely pounded them. It was 9-5, 22-3, and then 8-0 in that final game. So really none of them were even close. So you just got to keep doing that. Florida's only played South Carolina in the SEC tournament once in the last decade, and it was a 2-1 win for Florida in extra innings. So success at least here. But I just think when it's all said and done, like we talked about, Carolina's playing for their lives. Their season's on the line. They've got to do it. And then think about what the Gators did. So everybody that's listening right now, Florida's going to be the first SEC team ever to reach the NCAA tournament after starting SEC play 2-10 since the league expanded in 1992. So they did something this year that nobody's done in 4 decades. So it's pretty incredible to think about, and just how fun of a run it's been. So now you just got to keep continuing to play hot. You're without Heyman. Hopefully you get Shelton back for the regionals next week. I know he's going to be hitting this week and trying to do some different things. We'll see if NATO's in the lineup today when they play South Carolina, and then you can at least get somewhat of the defense back to normal. To me, that was the biggest, I think, bad thing that happened this weekend was just the defense. You got to bring Sear into second. Lawson obviously wasn't up to the challenge at third, so you get him back over. Then you got to play Stripling at third, which there's a lot of things that people that can then do. And even Bozer, who was on the SEC all-defensive team at third, he's making errors at short. So it's just once they had to move people around, that's going to be the hard part. Now you're playing on a different surface, a bigger ballpark. It'll be interesting to see if Brookings has to be out there, or if Ty Evans is out and right. It's a lot of room to roam, and this ballpark certainly plays different. We've seen a lot of things happen very quirky over the years here. So just you got to play sound, and if you do, Florida should win the game.
And just a note, monitor social media, monitor however you do it, because weather looks like it's going to be a factor here. And, Jeff said at the beginning of the broadcast, we're just hopeful that we can get Florida's game. It's supposed to start at airtime 5:25 Eastern time. But the weather is supposed to come in about 8 o'clock here, I think, local time.
Yeah.
So hopefully the Gators can get their game in here, but they're expecting some pretty nasty weather to blow through here. So, monitor things and hopefully we get this one in. But for now, that's our On Deck show. Thanks to Zach for producing it. We really appreciate his work. We thank you for consuming it. For Jeff Cardozo, I'm Steve Russell. Enjoy the rest of your day and look forward to more Gator baseball from the SEC tournament in Hoover. So long, everybody.
We thank you for listening to On Deck with Jeff Cardozo and Steve Russell, presented by the International Diamond Center. The show and the On Deck Show archive